Okay, I know I said that the next archetype was gonna be a XLR archetype, but hear me out. Recently, when gathering materials for the archetypes I'm going to look at in the future, including the archetypes that rank 10 featured on Legacy of the Worthless or his archetype archive, I noticed that two sets of cards started being treated as an archetype, which previously they weren't, and now they're suddenly treated as an archetype. So I decided to get them out of the way too. However, this one still isn't treated as an archetype, so I'm looking at it as a future-proofing precaution. This is the Reigns era archetype known as the Clock archetype, used by Yusaku Fujiki, the protagonist of Reigns. And yeah, this is a sub-archetype revolving around the fusion monster he used in the show. One of the fuel pieces for Dark Fluid's effect, if you catch my drift. But anyway, it consists of 5 cards. It's very short, so let's make it short. We start off with their first and only main deck monster, that being Clock Wyvern. This is a level 4 Cybers monster with 1800 attack and 1000 defense, and if this card is normal or special summoned, you can halve this card's attack, and if you do special summon a Clock token, which is a Cybers Wind level 1 with 0 attack and defense, and this is a hard once per turn. Basically, this is a staple in any Cybers Link spam deck, since the token and the card can be put to use for decent Link monsters and to be used as Link materials. So yeah, Clock Wyvern is a very nice card to consider running in any Cyber spam or Link spam build because of this token spawning ability. However, which makes it more useful is that it's used as fusion material for their first and only fusion monster, Cyber's Clog Dragon. This is a level 7 Cybers with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. Requires Clock Wyvern and 1 or more Link monsters as its material. And when this card is fusion summoned, you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the total Link rating of the materials used for this card's fusion summon. And if you do until the end of the next turn, other monsters you control cannot attack. Also, this card gains 1000 attack for each card sent to the graveyard by this effect. While you control one Link monster, your opponent's monsters cannot target other monsters you control for attacks. Also, your opponent cannot target them and other monsters you control for card effects. Sorry. And with this fusion summon card you control is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can add 1 spell card from your deck to your hand. So yeah, this card is basically a nice little OTK enabler, since if you use multiple Link materials, Link monsters as material, you can basically get this thing to really high attack values, and not to mention it offers graveyard setup by milling your deck. So I smell some Lightsworn Cyber synergy here in the future. I mean, if they release a very busted light Cybers monster with some graveyard effects, this thing actually might see some play in Lightsworn in the future. And not to mention, the floating effect is fairly powerful, since if the opponent pops it by a card effect, which is something that they'll most likely do with a beat stick that this thing swears to become. You get any spell card in the entire game to your hand. So yeah, pretty damn relevant. So yeah. It's also understandable why other monsters cannot attack the turn you activate the attack boosting effect. But hey, there are worse things to consider. Alright, now moving on to their 2 Link monsters which help out in getting this thing onto the field. And the first of which is Clock Sparta. This is a Link 2 with 800 attack points down and bottom right. Requires 2 Cybers monsters, and if this card is Link summoned, you can add 1 Signet Fusion from your deck to your hand. If a monster is special summoned to zones where this card points to, except during the damage step, you can target a level 4 or lower Cybers monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but negate its effects. And also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except fusion monsters. You can only use each effect of Clock Sparta once per turn. Just to get it out of the way sooner than later. Cyanide Fusion is the fusion spell which allows you to fusion summon any Cyber's fusion monster. It functions exactly like any other fusion spell does, although this one has its unique effect where if you have no monsters in the extra monster zone, you can banish a Cyber's Link monster as material from the graveyard. So yeah, basically this card was designed with Cyber's Clock Dragon in mind, and yeah, you basically you basically send the Link monster to the graveyard by some means of either using it as material for a different kind of monster as material, or you send it to the or you move it to another zone by using stuff that can do that, so you can free up the monster zone, so you can banish a monster from the graveyard for more fusion materials. And as for Clock Spartoy's actual effect, well, this card is primarily focused on bringing Cyber's Clock Dragon out of the extra deck, because the other Link monster helps it out by putting it back into the extra deck and then resummoning it again. So in terms of how it goes, yeah, it's a very nice card. You will most likely gonna normal summon Clock Wyvern, then use then special summon its token, going to Clock Spartoy, search the Cyanide Fusion, and then use something like, I don't know, Dotscaper or any other a monster which you might be relevant at the time, and then use the said Dotscaper for something like Link Kuribo. Dotscaper will then come back, and you'll make another Link Kuribo perhaps, and you will, and also it'll bring back Clock Wyvern from the graveyard, Clock Spartoy's effect, and then you will use all of them as material for the Cyber's Clock Dragon with 4500 plus damage. So yeah. 4500 plus, because you're bound to use Clock Spartoy, so that's 2000 damage right out the gates, and if you manage to bring out other Link monsters, it's even higher than that. So yeah, and like I said, the Cyber's Clock Dragon is an absolute OTK machine, so yeah. And the final monster is the last Link monster, Clock Lizard. This also requires 2 Cyber's monsters, although this one has 400 attack, higher than the Clock Spartoy, points bottom left and down. And you contribute this card, return 1 fusion monster from your graveyard to the extra deck, then fusion summon that fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard. If this card is banished from your graveyard, you can make special summon monsters your opponent. You can make a special summoned monsters your opponent currently controls lose 400 attack for each Cyber's monster currently in your graveyard until the end of this turn. Okay, so yeah, like I said, this one focuses on then returning the Clock Dragon into the extra deck and then re-summoning it without using the spells. So yeah, this is basically your plan B, while Spartoy is your plan A. And also, the graveyard effect is cute, if anything, but unless you're playing a pure dedicated Cyber's deck, it ain't gonna matter for much, because yeah, usually this effect is only used in Cyber's Link spam decks, because those tend to fill up the graveyard with Cyber's monsters very quickly. So yeah, Clock Lizard is worth running, but not in that many copies as Clock Spartoy, as Clock Spartoy is a bit of a more useful card, since he also searches out Cyanide Fusion, which can also be used for other Cyanide Fusion monsters, not just the Cyber's Clock Dragon. And as this is a tech archetype we're talking about, the grades are going to be different, a bit different from the standard archetype. The only everything gets a 1 out of 3 except for the power output, which gets a 2 out of 3, and protection also gets a generous 2 out of 3, because if you actually manage to make 2 Cyber's Clock Dragons at once, which is much easier nowadays than it used to be during Master Rule 4, you flat out prevent any targeting from your opponents. So yeah, that is also a very nice plus in my book. So yeah, this deck can protect very greatly, and it can hit really hard. So yeah, if you have a deck that can basically support these bunch of cards, I do recommend them heavily. And that was the clock archetype. We have two more archetypes left to look at before I return. Oh, actually, I will look at one of them, one of the archetypes tomorrow, and one of them will come after I review some archetypes which I planned before that because of the card number and the length of the video. So yeah, next time we'll be taking a look at a GX era archetype that started being treated as an archetype. So yeah. As for now, I thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure to check out my Patreon when you got the time. Maybe drop a few donations if you feel like it. And as usual, I'll upload the next vid whenever I can. So see you all and have a good day. Peace.